And Dr. Mohan Ramchandani, he's a consultant gastroenterologist who's attached to AIG Hospital, Institute of Gastroenterology, Hyderabad, and he's the director of interventional endoscopy. And few words about Mohan. So he needs no introduction to this audience. He's a friend of us. Actually, he has visited many times Sri Lanka for carrying out various endoscopy workshops, and actually he does almost all the interventional endoscopic procedures, and you see such a character very rarely actually. So we will see what Dr. Mohan has to say on this topic. Over to you, Mohan.
At the outset, I thank Sri Lanka Society of Gastroenterology for giving me this wonderful opportunity. And as has been rightly narrated, that the association is so close that we don't feel speaking in any foreign country, or it's like our own family. And once again, I thank the organizing committee for this wonderful opportunity. So my job is to talk to you about recent advances in colorectal cancer detection and management. So why it is important to have a colorectal cancer detection? And if you see, I mean, Sri Lanka may not be different. If you see the incidence of prevalence of colorectal cancer is though not as high as in West, but it is still seventh most common cause of the malignancy in India. But if you compare with the breast cancer, the incidence is high, but mortality is less. That is because of the proper detection and treatment. But if you see here, the colorectal cancer detection or the incidence is almost all patients die. So why it is happening? Because we detect these cancer in stage 3 or stage 4. If you see, 78% of the patients are detected on stage 3 or stage 4. None of the patients are less than 5 in stage 1. And this is the major cause of high ratio between the mortality and incidence. And if we are able to do this, that detect them in early stage, we will be able to bring the mortality down. However, the good treatment is available, the good chemotherapy, good surgical colleague. If the cancer has gone beyond a stage, there is lymph node metastasis, there is occult metastasis, and the problem of reducing mortality is not going to come down. And endoscopy plays a major role in early colorectal cancer detection. So I being endoscopist, so we'll touch upon, I think this is a broader topic, but I will restrict myself to make this lecture more crisp and, the more attractive. So I restricted myself for endoscopic diagnosis of early cancer. We also should know what is cancer, what is not cancer, and whether this lesion, which you see on endoscopy, has crossed a barrier, like say a curative resection part by endoscopy. We also have now artificial intelligence coming up to diagnose these cancers, and which is going to play a major part, especially in our region, because majority of us are not well trained to pick up these early cancer, but a machinery, a device to detect these cancer or put a red flag, which allows us to refer these patients to appropriate places from a periphery, will also be very, very important. And also we'll be speaking about the endoscopic management of early colorectal malignancies. Now, diagnosis is the most important. We do colonoscopy a lot, and we should know what is what. We just can't, polyps, once we see, we have to characterize them. Why it is important to characterize? Because we should know which polyp is harboring cancer, which polyp is gone beyond certain level where surgery is the treatment, or which polyp is within the endoscopic treatment. So these are the some of the important questions which we should answer. So the first thing which I will say that if a person does a colonoscopy, one has to characterize the polyps, which are the most commonly seen. Um, the polyps can be a polypoidal polyp or a flat polyp. So these are the two important things. And the polypoidal polyps, why it is important, I'll also talk about that. So the pedunculated polyp or sessile polyp are two polypoidal lesions, while the non-polypoidal lesions can be flat polyp or a depressed polyp. The flat polyp are further characterized between true flat or slightly elevated or slightly depressed, while the two depressed are really excavated polyp. Why it is important? Because if you see the polypoidal lesions, all polypoidal lesions will have low chances of cancer, 2 to 10 to 13%, which can be easily removed, or cancer or can be removed, and we can be sure that we have completely removed the cancer. While non-polypoidal lesions, the invasive cancers or incidence of being a neoplastic is slightly high. While those which are depressed lesions, like type 2C lesions, they are uh, harboring malignancy in 50 to 60% of the patient. So that is why it is important for us to understand why this definition is important. The second thing which is important is to understand the various new uh, uh, nomenclatures, that is uh, laterally spreading tumors. Once we see a cancer, we have to see whether this cancer is laterally spreading or not. What is laterally spreading tumor? Any cancers which are going beyond, they are not looking polypoidal and they are spreading flat. They are known as laterally spreading tumors. The growth of lesion of at least 10 millimeter in diameter, that is in opposition to traditional polypoidal, that is upward growths, but these lesions are flat and depressed lesion. Now, these lesions can further be classified into granular or non-granular. Granular means good. These are the lesions which will contain less chances of malignancy. While non-granular, they are not good. That means they will have more chances of malignancy. So whenever you see a granular polyps like this, these are uh, polyps which are not containing or having more malignancy. That means they can have a superficial malignancy of the deep invasion is only 0.5%. But if the cancer is also containing nodules, that becomes a more aggressive polyp, and the chance of malignancy will be around 10%. As opposed to that, if you see non-granular polyp, these are the non-granular. You can see the granules, and here you are non-granular. Even if there is non-depressed or non-nodular, the chance of malignancy is higher than granular, that is around 5%. While if they become depressed, as we have initially learned, the depressed polyp, the chance of malignancy will be 31%. So by mere seeing on a colonoscope, you can have an idea, not even switching to any image enhanced endoscopy, you can have an idea whether you are dealing with an aggressive polyp, or you can still have a non-aggressive or a polyp which can be easily removed. So the ESG came up with guidelines now that whenever we see a polyp, we have to define or classify them into two types. One is flat or sessile polyps, or a polypoidal polyp. As I said, polypoidal polyps can be removed easily by endoscopy, and they, whether the head size is more than 2 centimeter or less than 2 centimeter, that depends the snare polypectomy can be easily done. While the flat polyps, if they are less than 10 millimeter in size, now the dictum is to remove them as a cold polypectomy, cold snare polypectomy. You need not have a, a hot snare polypectomy. They are limited for more than 10 millimeter polypectomy. Now, whenever you see a more than 10 millimeter polyp, you have to assess for submucosal invasion. And that means you have to do some image enhanced endoscopy, which I will talk to you about. If there is a suspected submucosal invasion, you have to remove this polyp in toto. That means you cannot have a piecemeal resection. So that means you either have a EMR technique where you can bring total polyp out, or endoscopic submucosal dissection. But if you do not have a submucosal invasion, like non-invasive polyps, you can still do a EMR, which is a simpler technique. You can also do a piecemeal resection, because ultimately you have to remove the polyp, but you may not require a proper specimen to be sent to pathologist for a negative margin assessment. So that is why it is important for us to understand what is submucosal dissection. And that is submucosal dissection and submucosal invasion. And that is why image enhanced endoscopy is important. So coming to the image enhanced endoscopy, one has to depend on many type of image enhanced endoscopy to highlight these uh, crypts and the vessels surrounding the polyp in the microscopic structure. How it is done, I'll come back to this classification, but this is the most simplest classification on colonoscopy to say that whether you are dealing with a hyperplastic polyp, which can be left alone, or an adenomatous polyp, which needs to be treated endoscopically, or an invasive polyp, which needs to be treated surgically. So a polyp seen on colonoscopy, we have to decide whether we have to leave it alone, remove endoscopically, or send for surgery. So this is our basic aim. So this is the most simplest classification. That is as soon as you see a polyp, you have to see color, vessels, and surface pattern, which will allow you to differentiate whether there is a cancerous polyp or not. I'll give you an example. Now, if you see this polyp, these polyps are having a different color and different vessel pattern. Now, what is that? So if you see the color of the polyp, you can see the background mucosa and a polyp. You can hardly differentiate whether the polyp is there or not there. That means the polyp color is same or lighter than the background mucosa. So it becomes a hyperplastic polyp. While if the polyp is darker on narrowband imaging or any image enhanced endoscopy, as compared to background mucosa, it becomes adenomatous polyp. So mere seeing color is important. The second thing which you should see is vessels or no vessels. So if you see there are no vessels, or even if the lacy vessels are present, you will say that it is a hyperplastic polyp. While if the vessels become thick and brown, surrounded by a whitish structure, it becomes adenomatous polyp. So that is why it is important for us to understand the importance of vessel detection. These are the brown vessels, while here you can see the lacy vessels. The third thing which I told you, color, vessels, and third is surface pattern. And if you see the dark spots surrounded by white vessels, dark spots surrounded by white ones, they becomes hyperplastic polyp. While if you see oval, tubular, branched white structures surrounded by brown vessels, this becomes adenomatous polyp. So by this method, you can clearly differentiate whether you are dealing with a hyperplastic polyp or adenomatous polyp. But if these vessel pattern, surface pattern becomes irregular or even absent, that becomes an invasive polyp, and this will require surgical resection. So this is a very important classification, but it is not 100% specific and 100% sensitive, because it is good in picking hyperplastic polyp. It is very good in picking invasive cancers. But if you see adenomatous polyps, there are still more detailing required, like those which are true adenomas, where endoscopic resection of any type will be okay, or they are a submucosal invasive polyp. So a nice classification is not able to differentiate between adenomatous or superficial submucosal invasive polyps. So this is the difference. And that is why we want a nice to be nicer, so that a hyperplastic polyps can further be classified into sessile serrated adenomas, which are harboring malignancy. So they look like hyperplastic polyp, or a polyp which can be further classified into high-grade dysplasia or low-grade dysplasia, or a cancerous polyp with superficial submucosal invasion. So these carry the treatment will differ. So we are looking for a different classification, which is maybe slightly more detailing, like differentiating them into a true adenoma versus a superficial or shallow invasive cancer. And the Japanese NBI expert team group, the Janet classification, will do this for us. And if you see, there is not much difference. The vessel pattern in NICE classification, whether they say that there is an oval or tubular structure surrounded by brown vessels, that is adenomatous polyp. But if these vessel pattern and these crypts become irregular, they have classified as 2B, and that will suggest superficial submucosal invasive polyps. So that makes the difference between a polyp which is going slightly deeper. So that is how a polyp will look like. I'll just spend a few minutes in telling you about the polyp detection. This is a polyp with same color as background. There are dark spots, white spots, and this is a truly hyperplastic polyp. There is no doubt about that. And the second polyp, which we'll see, is a polyp with uh, lacy pattern. But there is another thing coming up, is once you see the magnification, you will start seeing the dilated branching vessels, but there will be also larger opening of crypts. So this is a type of hyperplastic polyp, but it is sessile serrated polyp. Then comes a polyp of, this is a uh, clear adenomatous polyp. And here comes a polyp which has got a depressed lesion over there, but the vessel pattern is irregular. So that becomes superficially submucosal invasive polyp. So that is why it is important for us to differentiate between these three categories. And then comes a polyp which is completely amorphous, and this is a deep invasive polyp. This goes for surgery. So now we have a clear-cut definition of polyps, which can be, this is no surface pattern, no vessel pattern, and this is a deep invasive polyp. So that is how we differentiate by endoscopically whether we are dealing a polyp which can be easily left alone, endoscopic resectable, or surgical resectable. So this is the importance of doing a characterization. Now, every time we do not have an expert available with that. And that is why we are now having more artificial intelligence coming up to help us in diagnosing these. How artificial intelligence is helping us is by incorporation of artificial intelligence in colonoscopy. Now we can do a lot of, we now know how to do narrowband imaging, but we sometimes may not interpret it properly. Now you can see here there is a polyp which is being, a colonoscopy is being done, but we don't know, expert is not available, but a person can do a magnification or a endoscopy, and the computer will tell us whether this, now this is, stain is being applied, and the endocytoscopy, the colonoscopy, which is integrated, has an integrated endocytoscopy, and you can see that clearly. But here, a computer will tell us, okay, this is adenoma, or this is non-neoplastic, or this is invasive. So that is how artificial intelligence is now being used. And in fact, the endobrain has a more sensitivity than a endoscopist, even in tertiary health center, to correctly diagnose that. So this was characterization, but sometimes now we have a lot of artificial intelligence coming up to tell us whether the polyp present or not. That is also important, because we may miss the polyp. The adenoma detection rate of a colonoscopist may depend on various factors. In fact, if the high volume center is there, human error things are there, so which may miss the adenoma. But there are endobrain available. There are various type of endobrains coming, which can help us in detecting the polyp. So now we understood by endoscopic method whether submucosal invasive cancers are present or not. So that is why important to know that all submucosal invasive cancers are not non-curative. If the submucosal cancers are limited to less than 1000 micrometer, you can still get rid of polyp and achieve a curative resection. So all patients who have high-grade adenoma, even high-grade dysplasia, submucosal invasion less than 1000 micrometers, they are endoscopically curated. While those who have a deeper submucosal invasion, those who have unfavorable location, those who are not lifting, they are not endoscopically resectable. So that is why we should know by endoscopy whether the certain polyp is endoscopically resectable or not. The important thing to understand is now all polyps which are less than 10 millimeter in size should be managed by cold snare polypectomy, and we have dedicated cold snare polyp in the form of polyp snares, in the form of thin wire snares, shield type of snares, and these are having a rigid the sheath, so that you can cut a polyp without using cautery. Now you can see this. This is a polyp which is being cold snared. This is less than 1 centimeter polyp, and you just need to cold snare them. You need not to apply the cautery. So the complete resection is possible. The bleeding rate, on the contrary, is less common with cold snare polypectomy as compared to hot snare polypectomy. Coming back to the endoscopic mucosal resection, as I've told, by diagnosis, you can say whether the cancer is limited to, whether the cancer is, is not angry looking, like a granular cancer, a cancer which is limited to mucosa. You can still do endoscopic mucosal resection. Now, endoscopic mucosal resection is an easy procedure. You can see this is a granular polyp. This is a laterally spreading polyp. There is no depressive lesion, no nodular lesion. So submucosal invasion is less. So that means we can even resect them as a piecemeal resection. You can see now it is a 5-minute procedure. You just lift the polyp with injection and cut the polyp in piecemeal. But prior diagnosis is important. Prior characterization is important, because these polyps, if they harbor submucosal cancer, then we will miss the malignancy, because in EMR, we will not subject the whole polyp to our pathologist. That is why the recurrence rate of a piecemeal polypectomy is higher than en bloc resections. Now, what is en bloc resection? They should be done by ESD majority of the time. If the polyp is more than 2 centimeter, you cannot do an en bloc resection by snare. You have to do endoscopic submucosal dissection. And majority of the laterally spreading tumor, which are not good, like non-granular, those which are harboring submucosal cancer, should be removed by this technique. And this technique allows us to do a proper dissection of tumor away from the muscle layer, and that will bring whole polyp out in toto. And that is why you have to work in this submucosal layer to separate this tumor from the muscle. You need not, you are not supposed to use a snare, but you are supposed to use a knife which will keep on dissecting this tumor away from the muscle bed, so that you can bring total tumor out with all the margins, and then you subject this for pathological examination, and that will tell whether the tumor, the submucosal invasion is less than 1000 micrometers, the vertical margins, the lateral margins, and all. So that is why submucosal cancers are, whenever we suspect, ESD is the choice. But ESD is sometimes problematic. There is more bleeding as compared to EMR, more perforations. That is why we should be equipped enough to tackle these problems of perforations. And majority of the time now we are not calling surgeons, we are managing all these complications in endoscopy rooms, because ESD is a difficult procedure. There may be associated perforations, bleeding, and we should all be equipped with that. As far as endoscopic treatments are concerned, if you identify the cancers early, properly, as I have told you, you can achieve the same results as surgery. But our aim should be curative resection. And curative resection can only be done if we choose our patients properly, by proper imaging, proper endoscopic assessment, whether the tumor which is there is superficial or not. And that is how you can bring the 5 years cure rate almost to 100% if you choose your patients properly. So in summary and conclusion, I will say that early detection and early treatments are vital, and it improves the prognosis of early GI malignancy, especially colorectal malignancy. Minimally invasive methods of treatment are currently the preferred treatment options for early GI cancer, with the use of EMR and ESD. But in order to appropriately stage and treat these patients, multiple specialists are required, including surgeons, medical oncologists, radiation oncologists, gastroenterologists, radiologists, pathologists, and so on. So I will say that the newer colonoscopic modalities have brought paradigm shift in early diagnosis and early endoscopic treatment of this disease, because endoscopy is the organ preserving method, and that brings the morbidity to the lowest. Thank you very much once again for patient hearing and for your kind invitation.
Well, thank you, Dr. Mohan, for that excellent elaborate lecture. So time is up, but I'll put here one quick question we got from the audience, that do we still have to do a biopsy from a hyperplastic lesion with all these enhanced endoscopic images, especially in case of if you see many of hyperplastic lesions? What would you do?
So if your confidence level of diagnosing a hyperplastic level polyp is more than 90%, I will say that you have to resect and discard. You may not send these polyps for biopsy, but you have to resect them. So this is a resect and discard policy when the confidence level of diagnosing hyperplastic polyp is high. But that also depends on what is the rate of sessile serrated polyps. If the sessile serrated polyps are, they look like hyperplastic polyps, one has to be very, very sure that you are not dealing with sessile serrated polyps. And that is why GENET classification is very important. And GENET classification has clearly defined what is sessile serrated polyp. So one has to practice a lot to characterize this polyp. Treatment is a different, but as long as you're not up to the mark or up to the 90%, more than 90% confidence level, you still have to take biopsies and send this patient for histopathological assessment.
Well, thank you. So I'll take this opportunity to thank Dr. Mohan Chandani on behalf of SLSD for delivering this lecture and conducting the supporting the workshop yesterday. And we hope to see you in next year in our possibly, hopefully, in our the physical workshops. So thank you again, and have a pleasant day.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your kind invitation.